G'day trendsetters, welcome to the next enthralling episode of Ask the Gravel Cyclist Crew a Question. Today I'm coming to you from beautiful Ketchum, Idaho, where I'm here for the Rebecca's Private Idaho, namely the Queen's Stage Race. But I'm also going to answer some questions today, sent into the website. So without further delay, this question comes to us from Paul of Kingsville, Ontario in Canada. And his question is, do you have any experience running two different tyre sizes? Currently on my Cannondale slate, I have settled for the G1 650B by 40, which is a Schwalbe tyre, and the Terrene Elwood in 650B by 47mm. I have the lefty shock on the front, lefty fork on the front, and I've been thinking about putting the Elwood on the front for additional cushion. Paul, that's a very good idea actually, and there's no rules in gravel, so you might lose some style points having two different tyres, but I've actually seen several guys, especially at races, mixing a bigger tyre on the front and a smaller tyre on the rear. So I say give it a shot and see how it goes. Thanks for the question. This question comes from Gavin of Lethbridge, Alberta, and don't mind the selfie bomb. How rude is that? Amazing. Anyway, Gavin reached. Oh my God, she's going through again. What are you guys? You guys are killing me. Okay, I've lost my concentration. Okay, take two. This question comes to us from Gavin of Lethbridge, Alberta, in Canada, and he writes, "I recently purchased a couple of Clement MXP 33mm tyres for the upcoming cyclocross season. I've entered a race. It's called the Ghost of the Gravel race. This actually happened already. I'm a little bit behind with these videos. And he's wondering if it'd be better to use the knobby MXPs rather than the file tread tyres he was planning to use at the course. This particular race is 118 kilometres long of hard packed dirt, gravel and various kinds of evil road surfaces." So honestly, listening to your description, or I should say reading your description, I would say take the knobbier tyres. You probably want some additional traction, some of the evil sections of road, and good hookup if you're out of the saddle trying to get traction climbing. So that's my advice. Take a tyre with a more aggressive tread and hopefully it works out. Good luck. This question comes to us from Elijah of, I'm not sure if I pronounced this correctly, Ypsilanti, Michigan. If I've messed that up, I apologise. His question is, "Hey Gravel Cyclist, I love the website and wanted to know if you sell any apparel. I would love a Gravel Cyclist cap, this one here, or jersey." So to answer that question, Elijah, I did actually have a few of these caps for sale, but I've kept most of them for myself. I might do a rerun later on. And regarding jerseys, I'm afraid we're not actually selling jerseys at this time. They're just too hard to kind of figure out sizing for everybody. But we are selling t-shirts like the one here. Unfortunately, I've only got size mediums available right now, but drop us a line if you are interested in purchasing a t-shirt. Thank you. This question comes to us from Stephen of Gainesville, Florida. I actually know this dude. And his question is, what are your recommendations for gravel bike pedals? So gravel bike pedals are basically mountain bike pedals, nothing too strange there. So for me personally, I like to use the Shimano XTR lineup of pedals or the Ritchie WCS lineup of pedals. Pedals are a very personal choice, and it's not something I really like to recommend. It's just like a saddle. Whatever works great for you may not work well for someone else. But good luck making a decision, and thanks for the question. This question comes to us from Jay of Las Cruces, New Mexico. And this first question is, I'm working with a limited budget, aren't we all, on my bicycle-related builds, and wondered if you have experimented with a guetto tubeless setup on non-tubeless wheels. So the answer to that question is yes. I've converted several non-tubeless wheels. Pretty much you'll just take, say, a base rim tape from a company like Stan's No Tubes or something like that, use a valve core, and depending on the tyre, you may have some success or maybe not. It's going to be a period or process of experimentation, and basically having an air compressor or a fin with an air compressor is going to save you a lot of hassle. I really do recommend you run low pressure though, maybe 30 psi tops. Make sure that the tyre isn't going to roll off the bead or anything like that, because again, the tubeless is really optimal. It's got the proper bead and the proper rim, and those systems are engineered for safety. So bear that in mind if you do a true guetto tubeless setup. The next question he has is, what kind of mileage can be expected out of a set of Gravelking SK tyres? Those are made by Panaracer. Especially if I spend an even amount of time on gravel, sand and pavement. Honestly, those tyres, I reckon if you mix it up like that, you'll probably get about 1,500 to 2,000 miles out of them. The pavement is obviously going to wear them out faster, but they're pretty long wearing in my experience. Now, if you do, for example, load your bike up with, say if you're a backpacking person, bike packing I should say, you can obviously expect to wear those tyres out a lot faster. So keep that in mind. Thanks for the question. This question comes to us from Robert of College Station in Texas. His question is, I read your article on the Gravel Cyclist website about XTR Di2 and the road shifters. I ride a Santana tandem with different members of my family. Shifting a bike where the gears are way back isn't always easy. I think XTR, the Di2 3x11 setup would solve my problems. I'd like to use road shifters and cable brakes. Do you think I can do this? Yes, you can. You have to obviously use the XTR Di2 derailleurs like you mentioned, and you can use the Di2 road shifters, which will work. And when I say the road shifters, I mean the non-hydraulic brake road shifters, and then you can run your mechanical brakes. You just have to make sure that you put your Di2 eTube software into MTB mode if you're experimenting and setting up the shifting. So it's a little bit fiddly, but Shimano does a really good job of getting the shifting set up, and you can mix things pretty well, except for mixing the XTR and XT derailleurs with the road derailleurs. They actually blocked it, unfortunately. So anyway, thanks for your question. This question comes to us from Raul of California, and his question is it possible to use a Shimano XT or XTR 1140 cassette with a Dura-Ace Di2 setup running a 50-34 chainring pairing? He would like to use the Linda-Ray Road Link hanger extension. Raul, I'm not really sure if that's going to work because the Di2 rear derailleur is small cage, and even if you pair it with the Linda-Ray, you're probably only going to be able to shift to a 36. You'd have to run probably the old Tegra Di2 rear derailleur, the mid-cage version, and we've actually tested this. We ran an 1140 with, we did a 48-34 setup on the front, so it's a little bit different, but I don't see why you wouldn't be able to run the 50-34 setup with the Linda-Ray Road Link and the mid-cage derailleur. So like I said, our experience was great. It had, there was no problems, but whatever you do not run the big chainring or the big cog combination. That's really pushing the limits of well, the derailleur and your hanger and the chain length is going to be another issue. So yeah, if you do experiment, do it on the repair stand. Just take your time and shift those gears carefully. You don't want to damage your drivetrain. Thanks for the question. This question comes to us from Mike of Atlanta, Georgia, and he writes, what type of pump do you use to seat tubeless tyres? What are the choices? Mike, there are 3 on the market that I'm aware of. I've only tested 2 of them. The first one is the Bontrager TLR flash charger pump and the Topeak Joe Blow booster pump. Both of those pumps I have reviewed here on gravelcyclist.com, so I'll link the reviews so you can check those out. The third option is made by Lazine. It's not a pump I've actually seen in person, or even if it's on the market, I'm not sure. But good luck with making a decision. Thanks for your question. This question comes to us from Michael of New York, New York. And he was riding the recent D2R2, so I'm a little bit behind my questions. But anyway, his question is good. It's he's running a Cannondale bike with 650B wheels and tyres, and he's been thinking about running the WTB Horizon. But he wants to come prepared to that event. He wants a non-slick type tyre. His choices he's looking at are the Terrene Elwood, the WTB Byway, or the new WTB Resolute. If I was you, Michael, I would pick the Resolute. It's a tyre I'm reviewing right now. It is awesome. It basically rides so well in every condition and has fantastic traction in loose conditions. It's the tyre I would easily use for an event like D2R2 or any other event where there's some really tricky terrain. Thanks for your question. This question comes to us from Ralph of Long Island, New York, and it concerns the SRAM ETAP drivetrain system, which is an electronic gearing system. I've actually posted a review of my thoughts on the system as it relates to gravel in part 1. Anyway, his question is relating to the front derailleur specifically. Now, this system, there is very limited tyre clearance with the current design between the battery and the rear tyre. So Ralph is suggesting a redesign to move the battery to a different location or somehow reconfigure the front derailleur. It's a good question because, Ralph, I have actually mentioned this to SRAM a couple of times. They haven't given me a reply and tell me what the future is if they're going to redesign that front derailleur, but hopefully if more people like you write in and let us know your thoughts on that, they will obviously realise there's a problem and a redesign is in the queue. Raoul also asks, what are the possibilities of using SRAM reed ETAP with an 1140 cassette? Raoul, even if you use the Linda Ray Road Link, it's not going to work. I've tested the ETAP with an 1136 and the Road Link, and it shifted okay, but not all the time. And I mean, maybe if you use the long cage, you might get some okay shifting because SRAM ETAP now has a longer cage derailleur. But honestly, the Road Link's designed for Shimano, and the ETAP derailleurs work differently to how Shimano does. So I think you're out of luck there, unfortunately. But maybe they'll release a mountain bike version with a longer cage. So thanks for your question. This question comes to us from Rick of Middletown, Indiana. His question is, what is the best way, if there is any, to keep dirt off the nozzle of your water bottle? I'm always getting grit in my mouth when drinking from a bottle after a few miles on the gravel. Well, Rick, there's not much you can do about that really. All I can say is when you're about to take a drink, just use your fingers to wipe the scumage off and take a swig. Eating dirt and muck and ichor is basically part of riding on gravel roads and part of the experience. So it's also good for your immune system. So don't worry about it too much, but if you do ride through a field with cow poo, you may not want to drink through that bottle for a while. So thanks for your question.
Traveling in a freighter car.